Hello everyone, my name is Deadwolf and welcome back to another reaction video. This one's another Extinct Zoo video and it was recommended by a commenter suggesting if you got any videos you want to watch me react to, or any other channels you want me to react to, let me know down in the comments below. And I just want to say Merry Christmas / Happy Christmas Eve. Currently I'm filming this video literally a day before Christmas Eve. Get the little Santa hat on for some of the videos. And okay, and we're watching the worst time to have ever been a human by Extinct Zoo, so let's get into this.
We humans, members of the genus Homo, have come remarkably far in the 2.8 million years of our existence, and a lot of progress has especially been made within the last 200. And today we enjoy unprecedented levels of technology that has helped the worldwide lifespan reach roughly 73 years at birth. However, the journey to get here has not been an easy one, and we've had to endure many hardships, sometimes caused by our own doing. And this is reflected by the shockingly low lifespans seen across time. For example, in 18th century France, it was between 27 and 30 years old, in classical Greece, 25, the Bronze Age, 26, and during the Neolithic period, it got as low as 20. Yet this being said, Homo sapiens, or modern humans, have had it relatively easy compared to other human species. This is something you should...
My life's really hard. I'm sorry.
...to be eternally grateful for, as life as an early human was sometimes downright bull. And it's not too uncommon for paleontologists to unearth an early human specimen who died under very grisly circumstances.
Damn,
now, based on research, it seems that many Homo species suffered such lives. But one study in particular found that a certain group, the 2 million-year-old Homo habilis, had it almost comically bad, and died so often so young that the majority of individuals didn't even live long enough to see their teen years, with the average lifespan having been estimated at about just 12 years old, so more than 6 times less than the current average.
I'm confused. If they were 12 years old, how the fuck were they able to repopulate? You know? Like, what the fuck? How does that make sense? I want to know that.
And what's crazy is that chances are that it was even lower, as the study looked at 26 random specimens and noted a lack of neonate and infantile individuals, heavily suggesting that the mortality rate was in reality much higher, and thus the life expectancy even lower than 12 years old.
Damn.
Such a fast and short life makes the Homo habilis the last human species you'd want to wake up as, and represents possibly the worst time to have ever been a human overall. Which thus begs the question, why were their lives so utterly brutal?
Because they're stupid.
Well, unfortunately for them, the answer is that virtually everything was stacked against them, including their very own bodies, as Homo habilis was one of the smallest humans to have ever lived,
what the fuck?
Possibly averaging under 4 feet or 1.2 meters,
they were
making them 32% shorter than ourselves, and in the best case, weighing just 60% of what we do.
God damn.
Such a small body obviously made them quite vulnerable to injuries. And to add fuel to the fire, they didn't even have any notable robustness to their skeletal structure that would have at least helped them compensate for their lack of size. And it's likely that they experienced at least one serious fall throughout their life because they were partially arboreal, meaning they spent a good chunk of their lives in trees. And given that chimps often experience at least one major fall throughout their lives, the same can reasonably be said for Homo habilis, especially since they weren't as well adapted for climbing compared to chimpanzees. Although, relative to other humans, they were more ape-like overall, a result of them having been one of the first of our kind to enter the scene, with an existence that spanned from 2.3 to 1.65 million years ago. Some of these ape-like features included longer limbs and slightly apish extremities that allow them to better grip while climbing and swing from branch to branch. Now, possessing the ability to climb with ease is of course very useful, especially when surrounded by predators. And in most cases, it lets animals easily avoid danger, therefore prolonging their life.
Poor bastard.
However, in the case of the habilis, the benefits of this ability were largely
I'm not gonna lie. Okay, guys, tell me why this kind of low-key, kind of creepy. Like, imagine you're going out to a walk and you just see a bunch of like monkeys or Bigfoots or these homos. What were they called again? Homo something. I don't know, we're just calling them Homo for short.
gated, as it was paired with the worst possible diet,
that poor
carnivorism. Now, you'd think that a human living on a plant would be strictly vegetarian, But the habilis actually exhibited one of the higher levels of meat eating seen in humans, reflected by their very large incisors that helped them cut through meat, and their proportionally giant mandibles that were thicker than those of any living ape or human, which allowed them to generate more torsion and stress while biting, and thus helping to rip meat off of a body.
Damn.
This being said, they did also eat a lot of fruit and vegetables, but their meat-rich diet ultimately forced them to leave the safety of trees routinely, a problem exacerbated by their fondness for fish, which brought them close to water, and thus the dangers within.
Oof,
And it wasn't just meat that was the problem, but also how they got it, as for some reason, Homo habilis decided to specialize in scavenging, of all things, which is almost funny considering their small size, lack of large muscles, and limited technology that consisted of simple stone tools. In other words, they did not have much to help them secure kills.
Fair
And one
enough.
group of paleontologists found that at best, they would only be able to reliably defend carcasses from jackals and cheetahs.
Damn.
This meant basically nothing though, as Homo habilis, who lived in East and South Africa, was surrounded by not one, but multiple large carnivores that would frequently show up to contest carrion. And to make matters worse, these same predators also routinely preyed on the habilis themselves, as these early humans were, for lack of a better term, easy pickings.
Those poor
And
bastards.
so, if you are a Homo habilis, you can be sure that on the
You would
daily,
die.
you live under the constant threat of being picked off by a very diverse range of different carnivores, that, mind you, each have their own
Damn.
unique, terrible way to dispatch you. So I guess at least there's some variety. For now, direct evidence of interactions between predators and habilis are quite rare. But when looking at time and general vicinity, over 30 potential predators have been identified, with large cats in particular having had a
Damn.
profound impact on destroying their
That's a
lifespans.
big-ass hippo.
One of the most prevalent ones lurking around would have been the Meganterion, a jaguar-sized saber-toothed cat that lived throughout Africa for the entire span of the
Damn.
habilis' existence. And despite being jaguar-shaped, it was more heavily built, and alarmingly had lower limbs that were actually lion-sized. These limbs possessed giant paws at the ends of them where razor-sharp recurved claws sat, just waiting to dig into the flesh of any unsuspecting Homo habilis. Once pinned, the habilis would then get to experience an array of sharp and serrated teeth, including 2 enlarged canines that would sink into their throat,
Damn.
severing major arteries and nerves,
Oh,
and
hell no.
fortunately leading to unconsciousness within seconds.
Oof.
However, unfortunately, there's also the chance that an unlucky victim would have had to experience the more rare, but much more terrifying killing method of having its entire head virtually covered by the attacking saber-toothed cat.
God damn.
And miraculously, this actually happened to a known human specimen, who had
Ooh.
puncture marks to its occipital bone.
That
In other
poor
words, the back of
bastard.
its head.
Oh, hell
But what's
no.
crazy is that the angle of the bite confirmed that the attack did not come from the back, but rather the front,
Oh,
which basically means the Meganterion put the entire human's head in its mouth.
that is
And the idea is that on
freaky.
top of causing skull and brain damage, such an attack could kill by completely smothering the victim's nose and mouth with a
Damn.
saber-tooth's jaw, leading to suffocation.
Ooh.
And in a case of more bad news for our distant relatives,
hell no.
the Meganterion had a very healthy appetite for Homo habilis.
Those
So much so, in
bastards.
fact, that it literally altered their carbon isotopic levels, which directly shows us that it was even more of a human killer than other animals that are associated with hunting primitive humans,
Oh, fuck
such as the
that.
Dinofelis, which I should also mention coexisted with Homo habilis and presumably hunted it as well.
Damn.
And to add fuel to the fire, there was also Homotherium and Machairodus lurking around too,
Jesus.
which is very unfortunate,
What the
as the
fuck?
latter happened to be one of the largest felids to
Oh,
have ever
hell no.
existed,
That
with
thing's
some
huge.
species reaching 405 kilograms
Fuck that.
or 893 pounds, comparable to both the
damn.
Smilodon and male polar bears.
Ooh.
At this size, it's not hard to imagine that even a well-placed paw swipe could take out an individual, especially since many victims seem to be targeted while young.
Damn.
And avoiding death by Machairodus would have been surprisingly difficult, because despite its great size, the Machairodus was a better jumper than many of the smaller, more agile cats,
Oof.
as its legs were too short to pursue long chases, which indicates that it relied on powerful jumps in order to catch prey. Which is all to say that escape by climbing a tree was pretty
No,
much out of the
thank you.
question. Meanwhile, while smaller, the Homotherium still stuck out as a notoriously bad animal for a habilis to get caught by, as its canines and incisors were shortened but broader than what's seen in other saber-toothed cats, transforming them into powerful puncturing weapons that also benefited from crenulations. In other words, irregular serrations that were wavy, creating a one-of-a-kind bite that both sliced and punctured simultaneously. And now, while these cats were definitely a menace to habilis society, They were not the only group notorious for shortening their lives.
What
As another
other
family of predators that loved to snack on our
that a
ancestors were hyenas.
Oh, hell
Like
no.
the cats, there were also multiple different hyenas that
How
went
many
after
fucking
hominids.
hyenas were there?
But there were two that really stuck out. Those being the Chasmoporthides
kinda
and
cute.
Pachycrocuta.
Oh, that's
Now, in
cute.
typical unlucky habilis fashion, the Pachycrocuta happened to be one of the largest hyenas of all
Fuck
time,
that.
with
What the
specimens
fuck?
not only averaging the size of a lioness, but also possessing a bone-crushing bite that is likely one of the strongest pound-for-pound bites.
Seriously, God, why? I want to fucking know. I think we all want to know. Why would you ever want that? why would that ever be necessary? Why do hyenas gotta be that big, that fucking big? I don't get it.
Of any terrestrial mammal. This unusually powerful bite was also problematic not just because it would absolutely destroy you, but also because the ability to crack bones
Well,
and
leave that
easy
turtle
access to
alone.
bone marrow. And thus it's likely that
Oh,
Pachycrocuta
that poor
showed up to a lot
seal.
of carcasses. Not a great thing for our scavenging ancestor. And then when you add in the fact that Pachycrocuta likely hunted in packs, you suddenly have a whole serving and a half of death.
God damn.
And if caught, you'd also have to worry about the fact that in many situations,
no.
hyenas will literally eat their prey alive. Which
They ate them alive, guys. I did not. Did you know if they ate hyenas alive? I didn't. I fucking didn't. That's fucked up. That is dark. I think they said birds eat things alive too. Like, what the fuck? Why is Mother Nature all about eating things alive? Well, is it more exciting to eat your prey alive? Maybe instead of a burger, I'm gonna go to a farm and find a cow and just be like, no, I couldn't do that. I like animals too much. I can never kill a cow.
is something that I, at least, personally would want to avoid. And this problem would have actually been worse with the
That's a big
Chasmoporthides,
hamster.
a smaller, yet in some ways scarier, kind of hyena. This was a member of an informal group of hyenas who are touted as being dog-like, meaning they are more gracile and nimble, likely prowling around in large packs.
Oh,
This
that's
more
lovely.
fragile size might sound like good
Damn.
news, but it really isn't. As small, but giant packs of dog-like hyenas eating you is definitely vastly more painful than getting one and done by a giant one. But the real
Fair
issue
enough.
wasn't this aspect of the Chasmoporthides, but rather its limb construction, which reflected adaptations designed for extreme speed, bearing a strong resemblance to the legs seen in cheetahs,
What the
and thus
fuck?
leading to it being nicknamed the running or hunting hyena.
Oh, that's lovely.
The major problem with this is that Homo habilis, on the other hand, was not a very good runner, and
They
at
don't
best
look
could
like
achieve
good
a certain
runners.
degree of endurance running.
Those poor
And
bastards.
to add to their
never had a
misery,
chance.
these hyenas were also hypercarnivores,
Jesus
meaning that over
Christ.
70% of their calories came from meat alone, a diet they enacted through their razor-sharp teeth that strangely had edges shaped like those of a big cat.
Damn.
But as bad as these guys sound,
Oof.
they were nothing compared to what lurked in the waters of the Homo habilis' environment.
Jesus.
Giant crocs. In other words,
How big
a
were
nightmare for
crocs?
our ancestors, considering that, as mentioned, they had a fondness for fishing, and not with a fishing rod or spear, but rather with their
That's a
hands,
catfish,
which
holy
almost
shit.
makes it seem like they wanted to
a
be
big-ass
hunted down by
fish.
crocodiles. And let's just say, these
Oof.
crocs were more than happy to oblige. The most notable kinds back then happened to have belonged to the same genus of crocodile alive today, the
Girl.
crocodilus.
The crocodile.
That being said, you would not have to worry about confusing them for any living species, as these ones
that poor
were utterly
elephant.
giant, with the two largest having been the crocodilus thorbjarnarsoni and the anthropophagus.
How big? How
Now,
big are we
you may be
talking about?
wondering about the anthrop part of the latter's name, and the reason for it is because this croc loved to eat people,
Oh,
leading
that's
to a
lovely.
name which literally means human eater.
Oh, hell
And of
no.
course, as such, we have direct evidence for its humanly diet.
Oh.
As in one formation alone, 2 juvenile habilises were found with severe damage to their legs and feet that matched the teeth of this crocodile,
God
and
damn.
thus showcasing how they would seemingly target the legs while springing ambushes,
That poor deer.
and then proceed to kill them by
God
either
damn.
drowning them or using a death roll to literally rip their limbs off, which apparently happened in both of these 2 cases. In other words, not a pleasant way to go out. And fighting back was not an option, as Anthropophagus was covered in very sturdy armor, and was even larger than your normal saltwater crocodile, with adults reaching a length of
Oh,
7.5
hell
meters
no.
or 25.
Why? Again, God, why would alligators need to be that fucking big? I don't know, man. When watching these videos, it really makes me appreciate these animals are dead. Like, that. I at least hope there's no modern day alligators this fucking big. Maybe here? Maybe? But if they're this big, I think we gotta kill it. Because fuck that. Holy shit, dude. God damn.
Feet and weighing around 1.5 tons. To just put that into perspective, the longest recorded extant croc, an individual named Lolong, only reached 20 feet or 6 meters and weighed just 1.1 tons.
Oh, hell no.
So as you can imagine, at this gargantuan size, Anthropophagus surely had one killer bite, which along with its human diet, makes it come off as one pretty devilish creature. Which is why it's perfectly fitting that it also possessed two prominent ridges.
Dude, this thing looks fucking awesome, but horrifying at the same fucking time. I would never want to see an alligator out in the fucking wild. In the zoo, okay. Never in the wild. Never in the
horns above its eyes that made it not just lethal, but also visually terrifying. However, while it seems to have definitely been the most problematic croc for humans, it wasn't actually the largest, as that title went to the Thorbjornarsunni, a slightly older crocodile that also coexisted with the habilis, and preyed on them during the earlier days of our ancestors' existence. Thankfully, it wasn't that much bigger than its younger counterpart, having been about 8 meters or 26.2 feet long. But it's not that much of an upside, as that of course still makes it the largest crocodile species ever discovered, which in turn also makes it one of the biggest true crocodiles to have ever lived.
God.
And because its remains are so few and far between, there's a very good chance that it got even bigger. What was really unique about this predator, though, was its skull, as in addition to being gargantuan, it was also much broader than what's seen in other living crocodiles, perhaps being an adaptation to help better grip and crush armored prey, such as large turtles. Despite this specialization, it was still likely an opportunistic feeder who no doubt fed on the occasional poor sod. In fact, the holotype for Homo habilis, a specimen dubbed OH7, may have been a victim itself, as its foot and leg bones bore large, broad, and deep puncture wounds that matched the teeth of a giant croc. And like the other fellows I mentioned earlier, it seems that OH7 lost its limb in this violent attack, and also lost its life.
But
what's crazy is that things for this specimen were even more unfair than just this, as a certain group of researchers believe that it wasn't just attacked by a croc, but a mammalian carnivore as well, because while analyzing the upper body, paleontologists noticed that on its parietal bone, the holotype had shallow groove marks that did not match any bite seen in crocodiles, but rather the damage bore an uncanny resemblance to the bite of large cats, and thus leading to the idea that a leopard-sized mammal had taken a chunk out of OH7's head. Ouch, to say the least. Although, it's not known for certain if this attack had been carried out after the specimen had already died, or if this had been an earlier attack that had managed to survive. While this question remains, it's clear that these guys had many predators to watch out for. And of course, prehistoric cats, hyenas, and giant crocs were just the tip of the iceberg.
What do you mean the tip of the iceberg?
As you also had many predators around that are still alive today. Including various panthera, canids, birds of prey, and snakes. Snakes especially were likely another major component.
I fucking hate snakes. I said it in one of the October episodes of the podcast that I have a fear of snakes. I already don't like this motherfucker. I forgot what that big ass snake was called. That was, I think, in the Jurassic era. I cannot remember it, but I think this is it. I think
explaining Homo habilis' short lifespan. Because despite no direct evidence of attacks being known of, we do know that in general, snakes and hominids have a dicey relationship at best.
Oh, hell no.
And to this day, snakes cause tens of thousands of deaths within Africa alone,
I believe
with venomous snakes being the worst perpetrators.
I bet.
While in uncontacted tribes, attacks by constricting snakes remain the highest source of mortality for specific groups.
Anaconda?
And some scientists believe that snakes were so problematic for early man that they essentially created an evolutionary arms race between the
They can fucking shoot venom? I don't know why, but anytime I've heard venomous snake, I always picture them biting for the venom. I never considered that they could... You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck? I hate that. I hate snakes even more now. Spitting snakes, fuck that.
The two, with enhanced visual detection possibly being an adaptation designed to better help us detect camouflaged snakes. Not to mention that primates in general may be literally hardwired to fear snakes.
I bet.
At least according to a few studies.
I am.
So in other words, it's pretty much guaranteed that Homo habilis were also victims of serpents.
Serpents.
Now, the amount of predators that the habilis' diet forced them to confront was no doubt a travesty for them. Yet, it wasn't just predators that ascending the trees brought them into contact with, as many territorial herbivores and omnivores were also found in great numbers.
Hang on, no, hang on, wait.
As many territorial...
What the fuck's this? This is like an elephant with its tusks, like teeth? What the fuck's that?
Territorial herbivores and omnivores were also found in great numbers, and included a variety of prehistoric rhinos, hippos, giant warthogs, elephantidae, giraffes, and bovids. Needless to say, these animals did not kill humans as often as predators. But deaths still happened. And despite being lesser in numbers and diversity, herbivores and omnivores in present-day Africa cause a few thousand deaths per year across the board. And if forcing them to confront vicious animals wasn't enough, then it's a good thing that their diet's drawbacks went even further than this, as it possibly also led to health problems, namely to the teeth. As of the 26 individuals studied, only about 40% had decent teeth, while the rest had severe wear and tear to their enamels, and chipped and cracked teeth. And while this may not sound all that gloomy, it really is when you consider that the oldest specimen was only 25 years old. And there were even multiple examples of specimens who were under 10 that already had major dental problems.
What the fuck?
And to really exemplify
I guess
this,
things were different back
one
then.
individual, who was 17 years old, was found with dentistry so poor that it was about 2 times as bad as what you would expect to see in a modern elderly human who also had bad dental hygiene. This remarkable widespread level of damage was 100% caused by the diet of Homo habilis, but it was not necessarily a result of the scavenged meat. It could have been instead a combination of flesh, bone, and tough plant material that caused a lot of wear and tear. Plus, given their lack of offense, the habilis likely did not get the first pick when it came to food, which would have resulted in it having a limited choice and forcing people to eat whatever was available, even if it was no good for their dental hygiene. Another factor in this lack of choice, which in itself likely also
Okay, so I want to know something. Did the artist really feel like it was necessary to give these guys dicks to the point Extinct Zoo had to blur them out? Why would you do that? You know, we could just picture them like monkeys, right? You know, we don't see the shalong, you know, except for the jacking off ones. But like, come on, why for an artist? Why'd you have to add that? Why?
Contributed to even more deaths
So unnecessary.
was their environment and climate. As during the Pleistocene, Africa experienced a period of intense fluctuations in the climate that resulted in coldness and increased aridity that made food options very scarce, and even leading to systematic starvation.
Whoa.
And it's believed that as the climate worsened, populations had to rely more and more on scavenging meat to supplement their caloric intake, which in turn led to again more deaths, as it brought them into contact with more predators, who also would have been more violent as they too felt the strains of a dying ecosystem. And interestingly, but perhaps not that surprising, the competition that was created from these climatic changes may have also led the habilis to experience more fatalities at the hands of an animal it was very close to, itself.
Oh.
And I don't actually mean other habilises,
Sasquatch?
although this was definitely a possibility, but rather other humans, as habilis remains have been found in the same area of not just one, but 3 other Homo species, as well as another hominin, with these specifically being Homo ergaster, erectus, and rudolfensis, and the Paranthropus boisei, respectively.
Damn.
We are aware that interactions with these close relatives at least sometimes ended violently, as there is at least one known Paranthropus specimen who was definitely killed by a habilis, possibly even becoming food for it. Now in this particular instance, the habilis managed to secure the dub, yet with the other Homo species, it was likely at a severe disadvantage for a few reasons. Firstly, it was the smallest Homo species at the time, and the least adapted for a terrestrial life, so any confrontation on the ground would have been the home field for the others. Secondly, the habilis unfortunately had the second smallest brain seen in any human, with an average brain size of between 500 and 687 centimeters cubed, making it 25% smaller than the next smallest brained Homo species it coexisted with,
Damn.
the ergaster, while the erectus could sometimes have a brain literally double the size. This large difference likely led to an intelligence gap between the habilis and its competitors, a notion partially reflected by the varying technologies that each species achieved. As for example, the erectus had access to controlled fires, picks, knives, and cleavers, which would have given them a huge edge during any fight, to say the least.
Damn.
And to make matters worse, despite not being a hominin, I will also mention that the ape Dinopithecus was likely a part of the fray as well. And in some ways, this creature was even more unsettling than multiple Homo species.
That is scary.
As it was a giant primate that was closely related to baboons,
That is
and
freaky.
thus had giant fangs and would have been roped with large amounts of muscles. And when considering the fact that it could have been 3 times the size...
Why? Why? Again, I ask why. That is so unnecessary.
...of Homo habilis, we should probably add this guy to the already very long list of potential predators. Ultimately, it was a very tough and unfair world to the Homo habilis, and according to the original study, the worst part of an individual's life would have started at around age 10, when they entered a phase associated with maximum mortality. Though ironically, reaching 10 in the first place would have already made you one of the luckier ones, as based on another study, it's presumed that 40% of everyone died before reaching double digits.
Damn.
And if we factor in juveniles and infants, then it's believed that this number increases to 60%.
Damn.
This in turn would mean that the average age of death given in the study would actually be lower than 12 years.
Jesus
which then of course
Christ.
raises a whole other question on how in the world did the habilis even manage to exist for such a long time.
Exactly.
Perhaps the answer lies in their technology, that
What
did in fact
technology?
allow them to access bone marrow and tough plant material. Additionally, there is an offhand chance that a 1.7 million year old windbreak, or rough hut, was built by a group of Homo habilis, which if accurate, implies that they had a way to deal with the worsening climate of their times. The number game also seems to have played a big part in their miraculous extended survival, as paleontologists estimate that group sizes may have reached up to 85 different members, and thus allowing for more protection and a lower chance that any given individual would have been picked off by a carnivore. Though honestly, based on everything, that didn't seem to work out too great for them. And who knows, perhaps the extremely high mortality rate was what finally broke them. But whatever the case, one thing is clear. Being a Homo habilis sucked.
I bet. What the hell? Anyway guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and again let me know down in the comments below any other videos or YouTube channels you guys want me to react to. And again, happy holidays. Hope everyone stays safe and has a fun and happy holiday, whatever holiday you may be celebrating. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.